Presented by the Making Star Wars Podcasting Network. This is the Cantina Cast, your watering hole for thought-provoking Star Wars discussion, character dissections, quote and scene analysis, honest opinions on the Star Wars news that interests you, and whatever else these guys come up with. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joa.
Hello and welcome to episode 198, The Morality of the Force of the Cantina Cast. That kind of didn't make sense, but anyway. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike, and of course, as always, I am joined by Joa. Joa, say hello.
Hello there.
All right, Joe, I have to admit, last time we left off with Force Friday, it was just before we were going into Force Friday, and we were both kind of like, whatever. It's not a big deal. There's nothing that interests us or appeals to us. Well, I got kind of caught up with Force Friday a little bit. Not too much, but, I got a few things, and I got a little excited. I think I blame the Discord channel a little bit because I think it's Gardoon. I think that's his handle or name or whatever he uses. I think I pronounced that right. He kind of egged me on with the Lego silencer because earlier in the week I had tweeted, or I'd not tweeted, but I'd said something in the chat that I wanted the Short Trooper minifigure, and you get that with like $50 if you spend $50 on Legos or whatever. They'll give that to you, and well, I got a little hooked. I said, you know what, I'm going to get that because I have the Poe Dameron X-wing, the black X-wing that was from the Force Awakens. I'm like, you know what, a little bit of tradition. I'll do this, and I can live out my fantasy of having them having a dogfight in my house. So I did that, and what the big thing for me was, and I was a little surprised by this because I thought this was later on that they were going to do this, was the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive that you got of Rey and Luke. Yoda News tweeted out, I got this, I ordered it the other day, and boom, it's here. And I said, whoa, I got to check this out. So I did that, and boom, I ordered it. I was shocked that it was there. So I was a little stunned that I'm going to be able to get that. I have it. It's on its way. So I'm very excited for that. And of course, the other main thing was I got the Funko stuff because you guys all know I love the Funko stuff. I got Luke, Rey, Snoke, and Kylo. Of course, I had to get the Luke one because it had the Kyber crystal and he had a cane, which is a very important thing with the Cantina Cast community. I had to get that. And finally, I got, and this is I think this is my first eBay purchase, Joa. And I've been eyeing this for a while. I just couldn't find the right sizes. The 40th anniversary celebration hat, which was down obviously in Orlando. And I've wanted that hat for some reason. I want that hat, and I got it. So I had a pretty good haul for what I wanted and everything else. I mean, overall, it didn't seem as crazy, I guess, as The Force Awakens. From my perspective, I was shopping online, so I had a lot of luck, and I was surprised by that. I thought I would have, with The Force Awakens, I remember having problems trying to get stuff online, but apparently the only thing I would say is that Toys R Us did have a few issues on their site later on that night. But other than that, I did all right. How about you, Joe? Did you get caught up in anything? I don't think you did. I know you went out and looked at a few things, but I don't think you got caught up like I did.
Yeah, so since I just stocked ships, I just happened to, at the two stores that I do, go in, and I'm a vendor and I do that. So one was a Meijer and one was a Walmart, and I just kind of walked over and at the toy section when I got there, and the Meijer actually had some of the 3.75 inch. I think they had a lot of it. They had a couple Reys, a couple Kylos, and assortment of other guys. Almost picked them up, but I was like, $8 for like this little itty bitty toy. Like I was like, that's $16 for both of them. I just put them both back. I didn't get them, and I just worked. And then on the way home, I decided to stop by Barnes and Noble, and because they usually have a lot of the pop figures, but I've noticed recently that they haven't been carrying it as many. And I went in there and they didn't have really anything. Like they had like one little section of their pop stuff, but I don't know if they've sold it down or they're not. I don't know what's going on with that particular store, but so yeah, I just happened to walk by. I was walking and looking kind of a browsing look. I wasn't like inspecting anything.
Hunting things. You were
well, and then I saw the Ron Weasley in the Hogwarts Express. I was just kind of looking at it as I walked by, and a lady goes, "This is a bookstore, not a toy store. Grab a book," from like 30 feet away. And I was like, she must be talking to her kid or something. So I just like looked around. She's by herself. There's no kid. She was talking to me. And I was like, and I ended up walking out because there wasn't anything in there. I drove down, there was a Best Buy in the same plaza, and they had some pretty cool stuff there. I don't know if all of it was new, but the levitating Death Star speaker, like Bluetooth speaker,
that was been around a little while, but yeah.
But that's the first time I'd seen it, but I was like, oh, that'd be cool, but not for $150. So all I got was the Ray and Funko and the Porg Funko. So I'm surprised you haven't given me any crap in the Discord, but those are the only two things I got. I spent $20 on Force Friday. That's all I got. I saw the Kylo Ren 6-inch this morning. I didn't get it. I just passed. I said, you know what? I'm only going to collect. I'm just collecting Ray. And I'm not even going to do the Hasbro stuff. Like, I'm over it. I'm going to wait. I'm going to save my money up here. And I'm going to get a, whenever Sideshow and Hot Toys release or do their pre-orders for their Last Jedi stuff. I want to get Rey in her new outfit, the Last Jedi outfit. I want that, statue, whatever. Not the premium format. Those are a little too much. But just the normal statue that they sell,
1/6,
the scale,
1/6,
they usually run around 225, but the premium formats are closer to 400. I think I'm going to stick to the 225 range, at least for my first one. So just so I can get one. And so, yeah, I got the Ray and the Porg, and that's all I got. And, I mean, there was some cool stuff, but I was just like, I was like, it's just kind of sit there. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm trying not to be like collector. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of got out of that a while ago, and just because the frenzy's on, I don't want to get sucked back into it. So I feel like I got away with spending $20. I wanted the Praetorian Guard Funko. I wanted the Luke. I wanted the BB-8, BBE9 that exclusive that was at Best Buy. I saw it. I could have had it, but then I was talking about $60. I really feel like I was able to live with myself. I had no buyer's remorse just spending the $20. So I could live with myself, Mike.
Well, like I said, I picked and choose, and I got what I wanted in a way, and I didn't have a problem with any of it. And I'm like you, I prefer the Hot Toys Sideshow stuff now. Like, that's the kind of collector I'm more into. If I'm going to pay that much money, like, for several figures to equal up to that one not premium format, but the 6 scale action figure there, I'll go and do that. That just seems more reasonable to me. I don't know why, and I love it. Like, I just got the Shore Trooper from Hot Toys and Sideshow, and that thing is amazing. I love that thing. I had a few of them, so I wasn't surprised with the quality. It's an amazing thing. So overall, I was happy with what I got, and even the Funko stuff, I was like, yeah, maybe I went a little overboard. I got my daughter. I'm going to give her the Ray one. I already have a few Rays anyway, so I did that. And then I remember when I was on Amazon and I was shopping, and they had the exclusive Praetorian Guard and Luke, and I was like, well, I don't really want that. It's more Hasbro stuff, and Hasbro's hit and miss. I was like, nah, I'm not going to get that. But with the San Diego Comic-Con one, that one's kind of special. So I said, all right, I will spend money on that.
If anybody sees this is not a Force Friday thing, but the Jabba the Hutt Funko, I'm sure I could just find it online, but it's like one of those things, if I run across it, I'll get it. But it's like, I'm not going to seek it out. But my wife really wants the Jabba the Hutt. So if anybody wants to send that to her, and I don't have to, that would be great. But I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that's one that we saw it one time, and then I've never seen it again. Do you have that one?
No, I do not. Jabba's not a big thing for me, so I didn't.
I have the Black Series Jabba, like that 6 scale Jabba that they came out with, or the 6-inch series, which is I don't know. I mean, I guess it's maybe a little over 6 inches tall. I mean, it's a big figure. Yeah. I still got it in the box, but yeah, I got that when, that was another waste of $40, but it's still sitting here behind me.
Actually, I did end up getting the GameStop exclusive Snoke. I forgot all about that. I did snag him because, I don't know, I have a thing with, leaders, I guess, that are, evil, I guess you could say. I noticed he has that ring on there where everyone's thinking it's the dark saber and all that other stuff and all sorts of things there. But I noticed on the Snoke one for the Funko Pop, he didn't have his ring on. I didn't see it in the package. I'll have to see when I physically get it, but I didn't see it there. So that's basically all I did. And I just wanted the Snoke one for some reason. I don't know why he intrigues me a little bit, but he's no Palpatine as far as I know. But anyway, well, let's get into any more Force Friday stuff, or do you want to, let's get into Rebels here?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. Well, Rebels is a little interesting because we haven't talked about Rebels that much. I mean, it's not a big popular thing with our listenership. I'll say that. But, this is interesting because it's the final season. So it looks like it's going to be pretty good, Joe. And actually, we might actually have some compelling stuff to talk about. What did you think of the trailer offhand?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering where they're going with that, the Lothal, and then the
Lothal cat and the wolf
cat,
and all
and
that.
Then I was like, what is this, like some kind of a riddle or something? I was like, what's going on with that? So that was the first thing that jumped out to me. And then I was just basically, it seems like at least we're going to get name mentions, if not cameos, but we're getting, Saw's back and all that. And, he's arguing with Mon Mothma, saying that you got to kind of break the rules kind of thing. So, I mean, these trailers are always for Rebels. They always do a pretty good job with the trailers, I'd say. They tend to take a lot of good parts from all the episodes and kind of piece them together. But if I remember right, the Clone Wars was always really good about that too. Like the trailers were always like really, and then first couple episodes, good. And then it kind of gets, and then like it gets good at the end of the season again. So I expect probably the same thing. Now, it will be a little bit shorter of a season, I think, this time, right? So
yeah, and they said they're concentrating more on the story and wrapping it up. So it might be a little more. That's why I said it might be a little more compelling for you and I now to have this, because it seems like they're going to focus more on it and wrap it up and not have these. I hate to use
well, it'll be a nice
episodes. Yeah.
It'll be a nice it starts here in about a month and a half, or by the time
October 16th.
Well, yeah, by the time people are listening to this episode, the masses be about a month. So I mean, it'll be a nice little stopgap between, if you're going to play Battlefront, it'll be about a month before that comes out and then 2 months before the movie. So it's just another little nugget of a thing in there for me. And that's kind of what Rebels is. It's just kind of it's like, yeah, here it is. Okay, I'll watch it. That's what Rebels is to me. It's not like to be honest, I don't even know what days it airs. Like, it just like whenever it does, like I'll watch it on demand, like a day or two later. Like, that's how I consume it. And so that's how, so that tells you, now it's important enough for me that I watch it. I do want to see it, but I don't have to be, it's not like Game of Thrones for me. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not like
the world of difference between the two, Joe. I mean,
Game of Thrones is pretty much the most popular TV show in the world. And Rebels is, Star Wars is the most popular movie genre in the world, but, Rebels is a totally different animal, obviously.
But I do have an interesting theory. And now I got to stress, like a lot of our theories that we say, we don't really believe them, because like if you think it's just one of those things you got to think it through all the way, and then you come to the realization this probably isn't going to happen. But we like to speculate, and I got to speculating because I remember when I watched Rogue One and saw his partisans. We meet, Bodhi goes and meets him and asks him for Saw, and it's two tubes, and there's a guy in the background with the black biker scout helmet, and I'm saying to myself, that's interesting. He's standing out, and you think of the black Imperial biker scouts. I had a mini bust of one, and I unfortunately broke it when it fell out of my hand, and that was very painful. That was like my worst collectible moment when I dropped that. But anyway, what I was started to think about is because Ezra has that helmet as well. Now I'm thinking, because when you see the trailer, now this is just speculation. It's fun just to throw it in the show. Saw's kind of trying to convince Ezra to forgo the Mon Mothma way, in a way, and the way you get it in the trailer, Ezra's asking for help from Mon, and she kind of doesn't give him that help. And I could see there'd be a catalyst for him to join Saw's partisans here. And depending on what happens, if like Kanan goes off on his own or he dies or whatever, and maybe Ezra just gives up that way, it would be interesting to see that actually he's the guy in Rogue One. I don't believe it. I think it's a stretch at best. But it's just fun to think about because of that helmet and what's going on and transpiring in the trailer or anything. But Joe, give me a quick debunking of my little crazy theory, because I know you're going to laugh at it and think it's crazy, but we talk crazy things on the show anyway.
Oh, I don't have any evidence that can debunk it. The only thing I'll say is, as much as in our Discord channel and stuff, we tend to give Ezra a pretty hard time.
Well, we do that with all our characters
well,
at the end of the day.
but Ezra's a kind of a special case just because he's kind of I think we look at, but we don't talk like, it's not like, oh, well, let's get on the rebel hate train here and talk crap about Hera and Kanan. And no, we don't do that. Like, it's Ezra's got a special place where it's like, hey, dumb, kind of like, that's like how, I don't know if that's how you look at him, but I know a couple other people in the Discord were kind of like, Ezra's pretty much like, what is this guy doing sometimes? He's really naive and just kind of, come on, man. Like, Maul and Hanzo. Hondo. Why do I want to say Hanzo? I don't know.
I don't know. It's well, that's like Kill Bill, the Hanzo sword. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Well, anyway, so, but yeah, it's like, quit trusting these people, things like that. And now it looks like maybe Saw might be able to get into his ear a little bit, so it's always, yeah, he trusts Kanan and he eventually goes back that way. But come on, man. Like, he lets too many other people influence him from the outside. Like, it's just like, he takes everybody at their word, and it's like,
you know
really,
what it kind of
so
yeah. You know what it kind of reminds me? I was going to say, you know what it kind of reminds me of? Like when I used to watch the show Dexter, and Dexter, the first like 3 seasons were pretty good. But then every season, it seemed like he got a pal to help him murder people and be a serial killer. And he was training people and all that other stuff. Like get in his ear, and then he'd have to kill him at the end of the year. It's almost like that with Ezra, where someone new gets in his ear, and he's like, ooh, I'm going to follow that path. And he ignores Kanan yet again, but then goes back to Kanan. But finish your thoughts, sir.
So, I guess as much as we pick on it, my point was, is as much as we pick on him, going back to your theory, I think that his character he's definitely a lead character on the show. I think he is a major focal point on the show. It's obviously an ensemble show. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a main character, but if you had to point the one, it's probably Ezra. Like, if you had to pick one person that they've really focused on more than anything else, I would say that Ezra is probably right up there with anyone else on that show. Maybe the Rebels people could argue with me on that, but he's obviously been a focal point since the very beginning of the show. And then the other characters have kind of become more so around him. But I think that he was kind of supposed to be that central kind of link when the Ghost people found him. So like Ahsoka, I would like for him to have an ending that we know about. And we haven't got that with Ahsoka yet that we know of.
Yeah.
So, it's just these characters, like, I don't want him just to be, oh, well, he was in Rogue One. And like, so I'm not saying your theory can't be right. I just don't know if I would like that for his character, just to kind of go aimlessly into the night, and then the Death Star blows him and Saw and everybody else up. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, doesn't he deserve
that
more of a
on screen
heroes end? Doesn't he deserve like a real ending to his story? And the fans of that show, the real hardcore fans, I'm not going to say me or you are hardcore fans of Rebels. We are Star Wars, but not necessarily the show Rebels. But I do, appreciate the Rebels fans, and I get like that. Hey, this is a big deal to them, and so for them, I would like for Ezra to, and all those characters to kind of have their final say and their stories to be told, much like Jyn and Cassian and all of those guys kind of had their thing in Rogue One, and they didn't drag it out. Hey, they're alive. Hey, what were they doing in A New Hope? Maybe we'll do a comic someday. That's crap. And I'm glad that they didn't go that route. So, that's what I have to say on that theory.
Yeah. Well, I personally want Kanan to go off and become like Bindu and Luke and like Ahsoka, and maybe Ezra is the sacrifice and dies, and then we go from there. But we'll find out in a couple of weeks when it kicks in and stuff like that. But anyway, let's get into our main topic, which is the morality of the Force. Does the Force care? And is it morally wrong to manipulate it? Which is something we've teased for, I want to say almost 6 months, Joe. We've kind of...
Yeah, ever since we did Tourette and Rogue One. It's something I've been thinking about because, with Tourette saying, and I think it's in the Rogue One visual dictionary where he's kind of like, hey, where they say that Tourette doesn't really believe that the Jedi had all the answers. And I wonder if some of that was manipulating the Force, or could Tourette manipulate the Force and chose not to? Or could he just not? Like, and I think that's the conundrum. I don't know if the story group or Lucasfilm, I don't know if anybody else is even thinking of this, I think this is my own little pet theory about the manipulation of the Force and whether it's morally right. I mean, to me, before we really jump into the topic, I kind of look at it as like, I mean, what do we do here on Earth where people are like, oh, you're playing God, you know, like they cloned a sheep like 20 years ago or something.
Dolly or something like
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They clone. I mean, so they can clone things. They can actually clone. I don't know if they could clone a human. I mean, they probably could. Like if
they
it was
probably
like
have already. You just don't know about it.
Maybe I am. You know?
Maybe I got a clone on me you don't know about. But go ahead, continue.
Maybe you like. I'm taking the episode off. You do it, Mike Jr. and you host the show tonight. So you know
that would work out for us actually if we had a few clones. But continue.
Yeah. So or maybe maybe that's the maybe Morgan. Maybe she's a female clone of you. How Rey
I always say that
as a female clone of Anakin or somebody else.
I always say my daughter's very much a clone of me. That's like the female version of Mike. I mean, seriously, she is.
I don't know how that would work.
Me.
Could you make a clone of somebody and actually make them not exact? It wouldn't be an exact replica because obviously the gender and everything else would be different the way you look. But it's a clone. I don't understand how that theory works with the Rey being a clone of whoever they say she's a clone of. I don't get how that theory works.
Based on the Dolly stuff from back in the day, I don't mean to get off track here, is that I guess when they were talking about cloning humans, they'd said, all right, they may look alike, but they're going to think differently than the original.
They're not going to have their memories.
Correct. And that's something that George got right in the prequels because the clone troopers are all different personalities. They look like Jango Fett.
Well, you all have different experiences and you have different memories, and it's
correct,
not you're not taking memories
experiences
and implanting them into somebody else's mind and this is your life kind of thing. So anyway, my point, even getting off on this tangent, my point was on this is like that's like playing God, right?
Yeah,
that's what some people say, like, and it's wrong. That's wrong. And so I wonder if manipulating the Force, whether, and I've said this before, whether it's a Force push or Force lightning, or if it's a mind trick or
mind trick,
Force
you
choke,
can definitely say is morally wrong because you're tapping into someone's inner mind, and it's like the Kylo thing. Like we accept the Kylo, the Obi-Wan mind trick, but then when Kylo kind of probes into Rey's mind, we think that's like an extreme violation. Here on the show, you and I, and even Becca, even think that was like it was such an absurd violation that like it crossed that line. Where a mind trick, it's like, I mean, granted, Obi-Wan doesn't do it to harm anyone per se. So, but continue.
So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where I'm going with it. Just to start, like that's going to be my, I guess you'd say, the groundwork of laying the foundation here of this topic here today. And so yeah, does the Force, but so going into the Force. So if we're going to compare the Force to, say, I don't know, whoever you believe God is, because the Force is that religion. It's the almighty power in Star Wars. Like it's not necessarily we don't look at it as a deity, like a god, like a singular person, like Zeus or whatever Greek god or whoever your God, God
Yahweh,
is. But,
all that stuff, yeah.
So anyway, so that's where I'm going. But like, because I asked this question because does the Force really care? Does it care about balance? Or, is the Force always balanced? And it's, man, the Jedi, the Sith, whoever that sees, that is unbalancing it like all the time. Like, but they're trying to, they think that they're doing something good, but they're really not. If you
so
get
they're
my
mucking
point.
up the Force, is what you're saying. At the end of the day,
well, I'm just wondering if is this like chaos theory, like where it's supposed to be like this, and so and anyway, so I want to read this quote by Heraclitus, and he was a Greek philosopher about 2,500 years ago. So I used to know him, but he says, to God all things are fair, are fair and good and right, but men hold some things wrong and some right. So if I'm taking God and replacing that with the Force, and we're taking it and put it in the Star Wars here, the Force doesn't care. Theory, the Force doesn't care that Darth Vader Force choked somebody. The Force doesn't care that he killed all those children. The Force doesn't care if Luke uses the Force or he does. So that, I guess that's my question. I've got like two questions here. Is it, I guess the morality would be with man, and is this acceptable to use it this way, or is it not acceptable to use it this way? And then you've got the other side of it is, does the Force really care at all? Like, does the Force cares who wins? Is there a balance it's trying to seek? So I guess, I don't know. I mean, I know that's a very broad question we've got here. So let's just start it off right there, Mike. What do you think?
Well, because you know me with the Force controls everything, there's no free will. And I which is funny because I think in a sense, like there is some free will, like the Force wants things to be a certain way. So I think the Force does care in a way. Now, the Force lets man or woman or child or whatever do what they want to do. But I think the Force intervenes when it starts going in the direction it doesn't want it to go. Like, you know what I mean? Like if the Jedi, there's too much, it goes back to that Mortis arc where the father says too much good or too much evil can create an imbalance that you couldn't even fathom, you know, that type of thing. I'm paraphrasing. That wasn't the exact quote. So in my mind, the Force, all right, so he realizes the Force, not he, she, whatever it is, the Force is realizing that, you know, there's too much good in the galaxy at this point. So things are kind of getting wonky. So it starts to corrupt
but that's
things.
the thing I've never been able to wrap my head around is how are things too good? The only thing I can think of is that quote from The Matrix, Mike, when they said, when they plugged people in and they made it an ultimate paradise and there was no famine, there was no, there was no problems, there was no crime, and the human mind couldn't accept it. And so they just made it as close to the real world as they could in the computer simulation. That's the only thing like I can think is like, are people just unwilling to accept, goodness? Like, I mean, because if there's too much darkness, obviously, I mean, that's easy to fathom how that can, how everybody is going to suffer from that. But to say there's too much good, if everybody is good and gives, and
well, there's a problem with that because it's almost like back in my philosophy class, like if creating the perfect world, there's no progression. It's almost like if you look at it, and a couple of months ago, I saw something on TV where they were speaking about evolution, and they're saying, well, if people were immortal and lived forever, okay, they couldn't adapt. There's no progression. There's no adapting to what factors may be coming in. Like they couldn't get faster, they couldn't get smarter or anything like that because they're just immortal and they're static. They're not moving or improving. So here with the Force is saying, all right, there's a lot of good. That's great. A lot of things have happened, progressed. Now I got to go back to the other way so we can evolve even more. And there'll be more learning. There'll be more like morality. Like people will say, all right, well, this isn't the way to go about it. There'll be more change and turmoil. You cannot have that perfect society or perfect world because nothing advances or evolves. It's just everything's, happy go lucky, I guess you could say.
So can we look at it like, I mean, I hate to use this example, but it's something I've always thought about. And I hate to use this example because of in lieu of, what's happened in Houston. But I used to live in Florida and I've been through several hurricanes myself. And, you always hear about, in Thailand or wherever, and you've got these tsunamis and these natural disasters and people die.
Yes.
But I always look at it, and maybe this is really morbid, and I'm not making light of anything that has happened recently, but I kind of think of it as, Mother Earth. I mean, I think the Earth is alive. Like, I mean, obviously it is. I mean, things grow from it. I mean, there's living things in it, but I think the Earth is alive. I mean, it adapts, like we pollute it, and yet somehow it, adapts. And the ozone layer was like depleting, and then like it starts like the hole starts shrinking because the Earth adapts, because it's like a human or like an animal in nature. It's like, well, your environment changes, but you adapt because that's survival. And the Earth.
So are we saying that like humans in the galaxy far, far away and even here on Earth are like a parasite and it just needs to be eliminated, so to speak?
Well, I mean, it's like, isn't it the Earth cleansing itself? Like, I mean, if no one ever died, we would be so overpopulated, it would be miserable.
Well, that's my point. You can't have change if everything is
so. I mean, so sometimes the Earth is like, and it's not necessarily, I need to go wipe out, a couple thousand people with a tsunami wave, but it's like sometimes it needs to refresh the land or something like that. I mean, I maybe that's like I don't know what you'd call it. Maybe that's a weird way to look at it. Or maybe
Well,
it's a
that's how the
morbid way
Force-
to look at it, but I
Well-
feel like Mother Earth, that's the way the Earth kind of works in a way, you know, and even with sickness and plagues and stuff, you know, throughout history, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's weird to think of that, and it's kind of sad to think of that, but I think there's something to it. And
Well,
I
that's
think
how
that
the
if
Force
you, yeah, and
kinda
I think
that's what I'm saying.
maybe that's the way the Force is cleansing itself. Maybe it's like, we got to get rid of all the Jedi.
Correct. And now we've changed. All right. So now it's bad for a while, but there's things that are evolving and changing. And then, you know, Luke comes along and rights the ship, so to speak, and with Vader and everything, or Anakin. And then things are kind of like nothing's changing, or it tried to change. And the Force is like, no, you can't do that. That when you're making the mistakes of the past. And that's why Kylo comes about, and then he wipes out the new Jedi and all that other stuff. So it's constantly, and that's where I go back with my saying where the Force is kind of like, all right, you make your free will, but I'm going to come in and basically like Zeus's lightning bolt and change things the way I need them to be. And here we are. And maybe that's what Luke sees. And maybe that's why Luke is at the point where, and we'll get into the morality of manipulating the Force right now, Joe, is maybe Luke is at the point like, I can't do any of this. This is not the right way. Manipulating the Force is the wrong way. Although I don't think we'll see that, obviously. But maybe he's thinking this at the time when Rey shows up, where you can't manipulate things, you shouldn't be doing. But I don't think that's the case because he's training Rey, actually. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's walked away from it. Yeah. But
So are we going back to the last topic just for a second with the,
Yep.
do we think that the Force, it's not indifferent. I don't think that's a good description. I think that the Force, it's not indifferent. It's like, oh, do whatever you want. Good.
Well, it's not
good
like the
or
universe,
bad.
where the universe is like, whatever, I don't care.
But
I think the universe is indifferent to everything. It wants to kill you regardless. But go ahead.
yeah, that's the thing that's always coming for you is death. You know, like death is the ultimate enemy, but you have to fight it anyway. That was in Game of Thrones. But anyway, and somebody else probably said it better than even that show did. So, but my point is that I don't think that indifferent is the right word for the Force, but it's not necessarily taking sides either. It's not in the middle, but it's like, okay, it's kind of like a bandwagon fan. It's like, I'm going to be on your side for here and then here, whatever suits me right now. That's how the Force kind of jumps ship, I think. So that's the best way I could try to explain it.
Well, in a way, the Force just uses whoever it wants to get what it wants. So, you know, you can look at it that way.
But why? But my question would be, why would the Force necessarily want any of this? Like, it's like, what is its motivation out of it? Which is probably something we really can't answer. But
well, if the Force is like God and it's self-aware and all that other stuff, maybe it's just bored and it decides to play with dice. I don't know. That's just, you know, it's possible. Who knows? But like I said, in order for there to be change and to evolve in thought and everything else, there needs to be chaos, so to speak, in order for things to progress. So that's
So we'll jump back to the, you know, morality of actually using the Force, whether it's Force lightning or just calling your lightsaber to you, or whatever, calling the
manipulation,
the nectarine to you, or whatever that Anakin does.
The flying pear.
Which is somebody's theory that's actually Snoke, and that's how he became injured. He grew into Snoke. So it's a great theory, actually.
The Pear's Revenge. Yeah, that's episode 9. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you know what my title for episode 9 is?
Swimming
in the midichlorians. But anyway, so I struggle with this because I bring the question up quite a few times. You know, is it wrong to manipulate the Force because you're playing God? You shouldn't really be able to do that. And even if you are, you should be able to discipline and restrain yourself. And you shouldn't do that because it's not maybe the right way. But I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, because I think it goes back to this quote by Heraclitus, is that, you know, it's not the God who's saying what is right and wrong. It's man. It's society saying what is right and wrong. So the Jedi say, well, you know, we're pretty good. You know, we don't hurt anybody. You know, we're just here trying to keep peace. Sometimes we got to, you know, defend ourselves and do this or that. But everybody sees that we're coming from a place of good. And then the Sith come in and they're shooting lightning and killing Rathtars just for sport and being bloodthirsty creatures and things like that. And it's like, oh, well, we don't want none of that, because it's kind of that's kind of risque, man. And so, I mean, that's where people separate it and like, oh, the Sith are bad and the Jedi are good. And it's a very easy dividing line. So I guess back in the day when George Lucas created all this and, you know, whatever started writing, it was supposed to be clear definitions, good and evil. And I feel like with Star Wars now, like these lines are getting blurred, or are the fans blurring it? Like, are we blurring it?
Well, I think we're overthinking a lot of things, and I think that's where. No,
Yeah.
seriously, I do, and I think we even do this on the podcast from time to time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought you meant. Like, we've jumped the shark here. Yeah.
No. I mean, like fandom as a whole, because we think it's more complex than it really is, and I don't think it is. I mean, it's fun to speculate and everything else, but I always say, you know, hold back, reserve yourself. You know, like I had a theory with Ezra.
This is what happens when you read Joseph Campbell too much. Then you're like,
Well,
what was George thinking? Like you're trying to jump into his mind as he's reading the same book that you're now reading. And you're like, oh, could he have been thinking this? Or what does this mean? Or does the story group know about what Joseph Campbell said about this? Or are they just completely oblivious? So, I mean, that's the questions.
I'll say this, even going back to like George's thinking with the mortar sock. I know you hate when I bring this up every 500 years or 500 times in the podcast, but he was changing his thought process, and George always thought differently, you know, going forward from like the prequels. He was always tinkering with things, as we all know. He did the special editions, all these other things, and you know, in my mind, with that mortar sock, he was evolving the way and the themes and thoughts about the Force itself. So this is why I think a lot of us are into this whole. The lines are blurred. Things aren't as simple as they seem. And yeah, maybe in the 70s and early 80s, yeah,
and that's where this whole gray thing comes in, and it's balance. But George is the one who introduced balance. He's the one who brought that up. I mean, he brought up balance in the prequels, and then all of a sudden, then it's no, we'll destroy the Sith. Well, what is it? Is it bringing balance to the Force, or is it destroying the Sith? Because I don't think that those two things are. I don't know how those two things necessarily have to be the same thing or how they align. I've said this before, but I think that it's a possibility that those are two separate things.
I don't know why I'm forgetting this, but for some reason in the prequel trilogy, the word "destroy the Sith" is only said to when Obi-Wan says it to him. Then before that, it's all the chosen one bring balance. I don't recall someone saying "destroy the Sith."
Well, Obi-Wan asks Yoda and Mace there, and then he says it to Anakin too. I mean, it's said twice at least there. So it says, is he not supposed to destroy the Sith, defeat the Sith and destroy them, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, he's screaming at Anakin. It was like, you were meant to destroy the Sith,
just
not
Obi-Wan's
join them.
warped idea of the chosen one, and maybe Mace and everybody else.
But they don't correct them though.
Well, correct. But yeah. So I guess it's implied, so to speak, but,
yeah, so I mean, so that's
Yoda
the thing.
I
mean, I think that they've taken it as the way to bring balance is to destroy the Sith. That is how to bring balance. When I don't think that's what it is. And if what Mark Hamill said in that Entertainment Weekly article is any indication that he thought Ben Solo was the chosen one, if that is an actual correct statement and has anything to do with the same prophecy, which we've theorized on before Mark Hamill ever said that, we thought that the prophecy could actually be a storyline in this movie. Like, I mean, we had a podcast over it. I did a YouTube video over it. So, I mean, we've been thinking along these lines, and then everything starts to seem to be coming in place now for that to actually happen, which is pretty weird if it does, because it's like we kind of guessed like a major storyline in the movie.
Well, you could look at it this way. From Anakin's perspective, throughout the prequels and the Clone Wars and everything, he thought it was a myth. Like the chosen one was a myth, and, you know, they go through mortar, so he still probably believes that. Obi-Wan seems to be the only one that really believes that. Mace is skeptical. Yoda is like, well, maybe he is. He's strong in the Force. He's going to destroy the thing. Anakin does fulfill his prophecy.
Doesn't Obi-Wan have to believe it because Qui-Gon told him that?
Correct.
He's still holding on to that belief of what Qui-Gon and his old master, and he still has to believe that, I think, for that reason. No matter what Anakin thinks he knows, or whatever else, Obi-Wan was told by Qui-Gon, and that's gold to Obi-Wan.
And yeah, and you could even, the experience with the mortar sock, he didn't get his mind wiped or erased. I mean, he, you know, that whole thing. So in a way, Obi-Wan is blinded by his belief in the Chosen One thing, and Anakin does fulfill that prophecy. He destroys the Sith. Now, did he bring balance to the Force? That's a debate that we're going to find out, and as we go forward here with Rey and everything, and what even Luke believed, because I could see like maybe Anakin coming to
but that's
Luke
the
and
thing.
saying,
People who say, people who say, oh, well, if they go, it's really taking a crap on Anakin's, storyline. If now he's not the chosen one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not the same prophecy. Maybe it's not, but maybe there's always, I don't know. I mean, does that mean the Force has to be in balance it has to be in balance for the rest of eternity? Like, I mean, I can't believe that would be possible. So,
well, then it goes to like I just can imagine Anakin coming and talking to Luke and like counseling Luke as Luke is finding out all these things after like Kylo or whatever, and he's meditating and things. And then we go back to the trailer. Not that anything is in the that's in the trailer is actually in the movie, but when he tells Rey, it's so much bigger. It's like he figured out a lot of other things, and that'd be interesting how that goes. So I hope we see that. But let's get to the morality of the Force and manipulating here, because we got way off track. So we'll get back into this. As far as manipulating it, I would look at it as like, all right, so say I'm a Jedi and there's a Sith, and then there's an innocent person walking down Coruscant or whatever, and the Sith decides to attack this person. Now, I'm a Jedi. I believe in protecting the innocent, and I have all these magical powers that can counter that evil person. Is it my moral responsibility, knowing that I could do something? It's almost like a doctor or a nurse. You could save that person's life. You're almost obligated, or not obligated, but your morality, you want to help. You have to help. It's within your fiber.
Well, if you were a doctor, I think you actually would be obligated.
Yeah, legally you are, but just taking the legal aspect out of it. But I'm just saying, as a person who has these abilities and powers, yes, you're gonna do your thing.
That's a good way to look at it. I hadn't really thought of it in that way. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you're given. I mean, what's the difference between me being able to maybe be able to pick something up that somebody else isn't able to? Should I say, oh, well, you can't pick it up, so that's not fair, so I'm not going to pick it up either. Like, let's just get a machine or something to do it. Like, R2, get over here. You do something with it. I mean, that's a weird, stupid example, but it's everybody's got different talents and different. I think we talked about kind of this on the last episode, is everybody's kind of born with more natural talents I mean, I was, I'm 6'4", I didn't do anything to accomplish that, Mike. Like, I was born that way.
Yeah, you were.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, so I'm big, natural. I mean, my bones are big. Like, I mean, I'm, kind of big and strong without even trying. Like, I don't, there's no form of exercise that I do except just going to work. It's not like I'm working on, but I can pick things up that are like ridiculous, like that. You wouldn't be able to think that would be able to do that. Yeah, I can pick you up. Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if I was, say I get the ball and I'm running like a halfback, I'm running full force at you, you can easily tackle me. I mean, it's not that I'm not strong or fast or anything, but you're naturally bigger and taller and stronger than I am.
Yeah,
and
so I mean, so if you've got that ability to naturally be able to do something, then yeah, you're going to use it to your advantage. And I guess, but it's just society that's choosing, hey, you're not allowed to just, hey, Sith, you're not allowed to just murder or mug somebody on the street. And so the Jedi is going to step in, and if they force push you or have to take out their lightsaber and do whatever force moves they need to do. Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to look at it. I didn't really think of it that way, where it's like, I was more thinking of it more, like abstractly. But if you really put it into a situation where morals,
well, that's the simplest terms I can put it,
whereas man in actual, like where society's rules are actually in place, then you have to intervene. And it's like, if the Force doesn't want you to do it, then hell with the Force. They shouldn't have gave me these powers.
Well, the other thing is, you could look at it like when Obi-Wan's in the arena with the Acklay, where he chops its claws off or whatever, and it's in pain or whatever. And now he goes the extra step. And this is the interesting thing. He puts it out of its misery. Unlike Anakin, he doesn't put Anakin out of his misery. You know what I mean? Like he takes the Acklay and he puts it through him, and it kills the Acklay. Is that morally right there. Whereas Anakin gets to be fried and crispy, and he leaves him and walks away. I mean, granted, there's emotions
I think we've
attached to that.
talked about this before, and it's a conundrum to me because it's either you're literally killing a defenseless man or you're putting somebody out of their misery.
But that was a defenseless creature at that point.
Basically, yeah.
So what is with Obi-Wan? I mean, you know what I mean? Like
maybe he just couldn't bring himself to actually do it, though.
Kill his friend. Yeah, I get that. There's more emotion in Anakin's a person and not, as he says,
he's not
he's
he's not a crab. He's not a fish. It's not a
Correct.
fish on a hook where it's like, oh, well, I caught you, like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if anybody's ever gone fishing, I mean, you don't even kill the fish right away. But basically they get tortured.
So,
it's like pretty inhumane. But
if Obi-Wan is with Luke and they're getting the stormtroopers around, obviously he had to manipulate to save the bigger picture in a way. But speaking from a philosophical and Force perspective, or like a Buddhist thing, is the right action no action at this point? But then again, you have the problem of, like, say the Sith coming around and attacking that innocent person on Coruscant, where you're the Buddhist or the Jedi or the whatever Christian or whoever you may be, whatever dominating.
This just goes back to men decide what is right and wrong. Not men, society, but that's the way Heraclitus says it. So ladies, I'm not leaving you out. But people, society, decide what is right and wrong, and that's kind of the way. That it is. If it's the right thing to do, then I guess manipulating the Force to do the right thing is the right thing. It's the right thing to do. It's not immoral to do that.
Because
I guess that would be
the Force.
That's the way I would look at it. I mean, obviously, I think we've been talking about a lot of topics lately, Mike, where there's no clear-cut answer, and we're talking about this stuff, and it's really kind of abstract stuff. When we were in the Plagueis stuff, we were talking about philosophy and
how wise it could be. Yeah.
Last episode and this episode, we're talking about really kind of like
broad
and high end, like, really kind of thinking like out there, and it's kind of goofy in a way, maybe to bring it into Star Wars, but maybe not. But yeah, I think everybody could have a little bit of different opinion on this, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just
if you're
interesting.
A Jedi and you're on a higher plane, all right, we'll use old man Luke as the example, because he obviously he went away. He's solitude. He's pretty much relegated to, like, all right, I'm going to die here, but I'm going to deeply contemplate on things and figure out what the real truth is, I guess you could say. And maybe Luke's mind at the beginning of the movie is the fact that, all right, I got to be on a higher plane where no action is the right thing, even though, because the Force doesn't care either way. But for me personally, I can't get involved. I can't save that innocent person. It's not my fault, I guess you could say, that they don't know karate or whatever, jiu-jitsu or whatever. And the Sith he's the one that's morally wrong. It's not me.
That might speak to more personal morals than like society.
Or even philosophical religious is what I'm getting at. Like,
yeah, maybe
code.
Something's changed, or maybe he said this is what the Jedi should be. I'm not getting involved. We're not legislators. We're not. We're not.
Well, because every time they get involved, it gets worse. Is what I'm saying.
But then, what is their function? What is their use in society? Maybe they don't. Maybe Luke has decided they don't have a use in society as a whole. Maybe,
correct. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. Why? What if because over history?
Isn't that kind of like what the the Jedi originally were based on, like, the monks and things like that. What do they, and there are people that still do that. They're, obviously around the world, but what are their, those people that are sitting in temples and that's what they do, what are they giving to society necessarily?
Other than wisdom of, passing it on to the outsiders, I think they stay confined into their little.
Well, that's what I'm.
Area.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm just really wondering now that we say this. Like, I'm really wondering what do they can. And I'm not saying it in a negative light. I mean, it's their. I don't contribute anything to society except that I pay my taxes, I guess. But other than that, I'm not out there, fighting the good fight or anything like that. It's like I'm just going to work every day, just living my life. So, I'm not trying to shed any negative light, but yeah, I mean, it could be that where it's literally that kind of a thing for Luke, where it's, call me a hermit, call me a shut-in, call me a recluse, call me what you want. But I mean, this is my morals now, and this is the way the Jedi should be.
Yeah, like he's got the high ground, morally speaking, because he's, in a way, he's left his sister, he's left Han, he's left Chewie, R2, everybody. So he
finally
realized,
a Skywalker has the high ground.
Exactly. So I don't know. It's very interesting, and I'm curious what other our listeners are going to think of where we're going with this, because again, it's one of those things where we don't really have an answer. It's like the prophecy. There's really no true answer. But I guess we'll leave it at that. We should get into
it's just thought-provoking Star Wars discussion, or as you would say, Mike, talk. But but
we still have that debate of which we like better.
It's just supposed to be thought-provoking, so hopefully, I don't think, again, we didn't come to any answers, which seems to be a reoccurring theme with our main topics, is we don't have any answers, but we'll ask the questions, and we'll ask and go way off topic and talk about a bunch of other stuff too. But we won't have any answers for you, we promise. But hopefully we make you think, and that's the main concern of the show. We're not trying to give you answers, trying to make you think alongside of us, along with us. Hopefully,
well, we don't have all the answers, but we seek all the answers, I guess you could say. But let's get into our Patreon question of the week. Joe, what do we got here?
Charlie says, "Hey guys, my question: which piece of new canon, in your opinion, has been the worst so far you've read? What are your favorites too?" So I'm getting a trend here, Mike, with these questions that we're getting. It's always about canon, usually in some shape or form. People are wanting to know canon. Nothing wrong with that, but and this might bleed into a question we answered the week before. Maybe Charlie hadn't heard it yet before he asked that, but he asked what do we think? Well, we won't say the worst. We'll say what is our least favorite piece of canon that's come out.
Space whales, flying helicopter, lightsabers. That's probably the worst. But overall, with the broader sense, like something that actually truly means something, I had a hard time initially in this Ahsoka novel of her changing the lightsabers back, because it goes back to, and this is my issue, because I have a problem with what George said long ago. He says they're not mood rings. They're that's just the way they are. That's, you know what I mean? So I had struggled with that for a while, but I pieced it together where, all right, something happened to her in the Mortis-arc with the daughter, and maybe she has this ability to do that. And you see her put the fifth brother's lightsaber back in its hilt or whatever in that season 2, I think it was. So I was like, all right, I can deal with that. But as we go further into the canon, we see that like you got to bleed the crystal and all that stuff. So I'm kind of still wishy-washy with that. I don't know how I feel about it overall. I'm giving them a benefit of the doubt, I guess you could say, as we go forward, and maybe it'll make more sense to me. But that's something that I struggle with at the moment. So I don't know. What about you, Joa?
My least favorite piece of new canon is probably the very first issue of Star Wars comic.
Yeah, that's another.
And where they had Luke and Vader actually face off. And this is a couple years old now. And, we had people, with us with the Cantina cast, and actually it's I think the main advocate of it was Mark Suter, our with Tarkin's Top Shelf, a show that you still help produce, Mike, with the novels and everything. He's a host over there on that show, and he would always argue with me over that and say how it made sense and how you could make it work. And it's like, yeah, you could make it work.
But
and it's
forced.
like, but there's some things I don't want it to make it work. It makes the Empire Strikes Back and that confrontation seem less special to me that they would have met before. So it was just like, I basically just erased that from my memory as far as like, this is how it happened. This is canon. I don't even look at it that way. Like you want to talk about head canon? I erase that from my memory as canon. Like, it's not canon to me. Like, I mean, to me, that's the ultimate definition of head canon, where you're taking what they're saying is canon and you're saying, nope, not to me. It's not. And you're just erasing it. Because it to me, it's that harmful to The Empire Strikes Back, and I really, 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 really disliked it. I'm not going to say hate, because hate's it's a strong word, and you should just do it. Okay, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it, Palpatine. I hate it with a passion. And yes, I hate it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll say it.
All right, get back on point.
No, that's my point. I hate it.
All right, well, that's fair enough. But all right, let's enough with the hate. We'll get into the good, I guess you could say. What do you find that is good and compelling?
Oh, well, my favorite, I think we've talked about this before. You always say, A New Dawn, that's always a highlight. We've mentioned it several times just because this canon stuff keeps coming up. But, technically, what's your favorite new piece of canon? I mean, technically, The Force Awakens would come into that, right?
Yeah, true, yeah.
It's, movies are canon as well. We don't tend to look at it that way. I mean, everybody knows I love The Force Awakens. I don't really have too much bad to say about it. I know plenty of other people do, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, that's been, I've seen it so many times, and, that's the one thing that I really, I really, really loved it. And it was a emotional experience for me when I saw it the first time. But other than that, it's hard to point out. I mean, there's been a couple of episodes of Rebels that have been really good, but that's pretty much it. I mean, I can't really point out any of the novel, besides New Dawn. I did enjoy that, but it is a wait and see. I like, honestly, with the canon stuff, I mean, you can even take the visual dictionaries into account. Like I enjoy those as well.
Well, Jeddah was a nice surprise, especially with the Journal of the Wills, all those other force using sects that we've always mentioned on the show. Now we finally have that confirmation that there are other sects of that religion that kind of see the force differently than what we've been told with the Jedi and the Sith. So that was pretty awesome. I thought that was great. Again, Bloodlines, and I'll say this about Bloodlines, it warped our mindset, Joa, and I think that's what the novels need more of. So that was one novel that kind of shook things up, and I will go to that, and I like that novel for that reason. It shook up it was like those earth-shattering moments that we needed, actually, quite frankly, and we've gone away from that with most of the novels now. Now, I'm reading the middle of Phasma. It's what you would think it's an origin story. There's nothing too big yet. I'm on the chapter 25 at the moment, but then there's the Leia book that just came out too with Force Friday. I got to get into that. There's supposedly some pretty big connections to the Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully that changes a few perspectives as well. So Bloodlines was pretty good. It changed a lot of things for us as well, and it changed our thinking, and I think that was a good thing, Joe, with the show. It made us adapt and change how we perceive things and how we're going about dissecting things or seeing things. So that, for me, Bloodlines, as much as it warped what we were thinking, we benefited from it and we evolved from it. That was done pretty well. Everything else, though, is a lot of wait and see. We'll find out soon, especially with The Last Jedi, how it, what the bigger picture is. I think that's, and I've said that about the Force Awakens. I like The Force Awakens. I didn't proclaim it as a masterpiece as you did the first night we came back and reviewed it. I'm more of I need to see the other two movies to put it in perspective and go from there. That ending scene was very emotional for me because of where my headcanon is. I even hate using that term, but I believe currently, this could change next week because it's changed several times since we done the Rey as a Skywalker in the Skywalker lightsaber episode, where 1 week I think she is and then the week she's not a Skywalker, that whole thing. But I do believe that she is a Skywalker, and that moment at the end was very touching to me. So I don't know. We'll find out soon. A lot of it's wait and see, but this is a very good question, and we'll probably have to come back
I'll throw in just real millisecond here. The Darth Maul comics that just came out, those were pretty good. Like they were really they were simple. It was a simple storyline, but it's a good character piece on Darth Maul, more so than the Sons of Dathomir. I'm not saying that it's better than Sons of Dathomir, but I'm saying that it's a better character piece on Darth Maul than the Sons of Dathomir was more of a overarching story, and the this new Darth Maul little
His
limited
character.
series they came out with, it's more of a character piece. And, so I enjoyed that. So, so that's one of my favorites. And they didn't really, it was hard to miss the boat on that one, I think, with Maul and I think they got it right, I guess is what I'm saying. So I don't hate all the comics. So I guess I just wanted to throw that out there.
Actually, another good comic, and I'll finish it up right here, was Kanan. I actually liked the backstory that he had, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And then going into A New Dawn, that fit all very well. A New Dawn, Kanan, and I like Kanan as much. I like Rebels, but Kanan, for me, I love Kanan. I think he's a great character, and I'm curious to see how they finish off with Kanan. So we'll find out. But anyway, Joe, tell them where to like us, find us, and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, definitely check us out on our Discord. And if you can't find it on our social media, just email us at cantinacastfanmail@gmail.com and we will get you in that Discord chat. I will send you the link. Or you can check our Instagram or Facebook, and it's somewhere in there, and there's a link to it. So, and then that's the email too. If you want to email us about anything else, it's cantinacastfanmail@gmail.com, facebook.com/thecantinacast, Twitter @thecantinacast, Instagram @thecantinacast. And thanks to our buddy Sindril for helping us out with the social media lately. And going forward, he will be doing that. So give him a big shout out. He's helping us out on the social media and getting more stuff out there for us. So definitely follow us all there and leave us a review on iTunes or whatever your favorite podcatcher is.
Exactly. And of course, like I said last episode, the links for the Discord and where to find us are in the show description. So that being said, we'll see you guys next week. You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.